Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome everyone to our first open discussion with parents regarding the standardized test. If Alexandra Gilmore can come on video at this time, amen. And Prophetess KEYANNA, wherever you are, you can come on as well. We're going to ask you to introduce yourselves to our audience. This should come on video. Oh, there you go. Greetings, everyone. We have Alexandra Gilmore here, and we have Prophetess KEYANNA Jones out of Georgia. They're going to be discussing with you guys on this evening about the standardized testing. Okay, I'm going to give them a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes to introduce themselves so we can get right into what we're going to discuss on tonight. Miss Alexandra.
Hi, yes, Alexandra Gilmore from Tampa, Florida, a mom of two boys, 8 and 13. Been long-term substitute teacher in vacancies and, majority minority Black schools for the last 3 years, going on 4 now. I ran for school board just recently, this last go round, lost by only gained 15% of the votes in the primary. And so just been truly an advocate for children. I started a parent advocate group and now Justice for the Kids group, just because of the racial injustices and towards kids of color. And, just here to explain how the testing is one of those things to the pipeline to prison.
All right. Prophetess KEYANNA.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Prophetess KEYANNA Jones. I now reside in Decatur, Georgia. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I spent 20 years in New Jersey, the majority of that time in Roselle, New Jersey, where I was a member of the Roselle Board of Education. I was also a parent advocate and community activist. I have done a lot. So there's really no use in going down the list of things that I've done, but suffice it to say that I believe in education. I believe in the power of a true education for children of color. I also believe that it is up to us as a community to educate our children, to advocate for our children, and more than anything, to empower our parents to be able to make those decisions that affect their children the most, and to be able to make the decisions in a meaningful way. We need to make sure that parents have the power to do that.
Yes, yes. And I am your host tonight, Pastor Shonda Obi of the ObiOne Global Movement. And yes, this is a movement. Amen. So first we're going to do a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to present this to everyone. And then if Miss Alexandra Gilmore wants to jump in, and if Prophetess wants to jump in, they can jump right in, because this is a conversation that we are having with you parents. And I would advise that if not only the parents, the mothers and the fathers, we have grandparents right now that are taking care of the grandchildren. So please share this broadcast in your group, start a watch party, share on your timeline, share in messengers, just share everywhere that it will go, because it's a very important topic, and everyone that is out here right now needs to know this right now, what we're getting ready to go through right now. So I'm going to start our PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so the PowerPoint presentation is basically going to give you some information. Oh God, some information that you can take with you, on your journey. This one. So it's asking a question: what is standardized testing? What is it? Okay, what is the purpose of standardized testing? That's actually a question that I want answered right now, okay? I want that answer, and I want Alexandra to be able to answer that question for me. So I have a little definition here, and you guys can jump in if you want to, because I just did a little bit of research, and it says a standardized test is any examination that's administered and scored in a predetermined standard manner. There are two major kinds of standardized tests: aptitude test, achievement test. Correct, Alexandra? Do you want to elaborate on this?
Well, when it comes to, you said, what is standardized testing and what's the purpose? They utilize. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. And so when it comes to standardized testing, the public school system uses it for their baseline to determine and diagnose where a child is at. And so teachers feel like this allows them to know when a child comes in from the summertime, what information they have lost prior to the previous school year. Okay. And so that's supposed to be the purpose of standardized testing, but we fail to realize that it also holds a child back. It also is a method to group children as well. And so they use it not just for a baseline, it is to hold a child back from their grade level, because they can be retained 3rd grade year and 10th grade year if they do not pass a certain FSA testing. So
okay, so let me ask you a question. So is there a particular score that they have to have on this test? Like, let's say 3rd graders. So is there a particular score that they need to have, like 70%, 80%, 90%? What is the score that they need to have in 3rd grade? And you said 10th grade as well?
Yes. So in 3rd grade, it's not a score. It's not of like 100%. Well, you can get 1 through 5. 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. You have got to get a 3 or 4 or 5. I'm not particular. So to be able to pass on, so you can't get a 1. So if you get a 1, then that could be an option of retaining. There is another option that you can do a portfolio, or the child would have to go to summer school if they do not pass this FSA testing.
Wow. So is that the same in 10th grade?
Say again, ma'am.
Is that the same in 10th grade too?
Yes, they have to score a certain score for the FSA testing. The highest is 5. And so that's for the reading FSA. And if they don't pass that test, they can be retained, or they can still continue classes, but they will not receive their diploma.
Wow.
They will not receive their diploma. And so when they say it's a baseline diagnostics, it's just like this year. Those children are being tested this school year, even after Governor DeSantis said that they were going to waive the FSA testing, the assessments. The only kids that benefited from that were the 12th grade kids last year, because they've graduated. So they did not have to worry about passing those final assessments to be able to graduate. So it was a bonus for them. For those kids coming back this year, for example, those 10th grade students, they still are required to take that FSA testing this school year. They've already began that last month. So they still have to pass that test. So all that information that they might have forgot last year, here comes the new year, and they're still going to be held accountable for that test to be able to receive their diploma. And
Wow.
for those kids in third grade, they had testing. Assessments usually go about 3 times a year. And so they've already had their first like 2 to 3 weeks of testing at the beginning in September into August. And they'll have, again, some of them will come up and you'll see like this week, for example, my son has an assessment on Tuesday for 2 hours at the age of 8. He has the assessment for typing on a computer and they don't teach typing skills. And that would be quite hard for an 8-year-old to know how to actually hold their hands on a key and be able to type. And it's a 2-hour test, which is required for their baseline assessment.
Wow. Mm.
Just to speak to the
Okay.
2 main types of standardized tests. So
Mhm.
aptitude tests are those tests that are given that are supposed to, as if anyone actually could, measure your ability to learn. So when you look at the SAT and the ACT, those are the 2 main standardized tests that have been used in the past for college admission. Those 2 tests were supposedly designed to measure how well a child would do in college.
Mm.
Since then, we know that a lot has changed and many colleges are moving away from standardized test scores because it's already been proven that how well a child performs on a test has nothing to do with his or her ability to learn or their potential. So a lot of aptitude tests are being done away with. Those are going to become a thing of the past.
Okay.
Achievement tests are those tests that are taken, like the FSA that Alexandra referenced. Those are the tests that are taken on a yearly basis, usually in cycles, depending on the state that you're in, the school system that you're in. They determine how often those achievement tests are taken. And those achievement tests are supposed to measure what the child has learned, what the child has been taught. So those achievement tests erroneously place our children many times, because it's not a child's fault if he or she doesn't learn what's being taught. Oftentimes, it's a failure of the teacher to recognize the type of learner that he or she is dealing with. So children don't retain because they're not being taught standards. They're being taught toward a test.
Wow. Mm. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. So the next slide is standardized tests are unfair and discriminatory against non-English speakers and students with special needs. English language learners take tests in English before they have mastered the language. Special education students take the same test as other children, receiving few of the accommodations usually provided to them as part of their individualized education plan, which is the IEP. What do we have to say on that, Miss Alexandra?
That's absolutely correct. So when it comes to non-English speakers, they are required to take the same FSA testing. Now the school board is talking about trying to implement some different methods this school year, but there are kids that they give them a dictionary when they do not know certain words and English, and they do have to take those tests. So it is a requirement for all students. When it comes to students on IEP plans, the accommodation is to be able to have longer time to take that test. So that's their only accommodation when it comes to anybody with an IEP plan, is to have more time to take the test. Those in English, non-English first language speakers, they usually give them a dictionary, but the test is in English. And so this is part of the the systematic racism, because when you have children coming in and you still are requiring them to take the same test the same way as someone who does not have a language barrier or a learning disability. I mean, longer time is not going to help a child to be able to be more academically successful. Matter of fact, I see myself getting more frustrated because it's not going to change the questions of the test. If I do not comprehend or understand them, it's not going to make a difference if I have 2 hours versus an hour. Yes, I might take, if I'm a slower reader, sure. But a lot of those tests that they give, majority of those tests are very tricky to a regular learning student. So when it comes to somebody with a language barrier or IEP plan, it's going to be even more difficult to be able to pass that test.
KEYANNA?
Oftentimes, things that are required as accommodations within an IEP go far beyond something as simple as having more time. There are some students who need special accommodations. There are some students who need to be able to complete a test on an electronic device because that child might not be a writer.
Right.
That child might also have another type of impairment wherein an electronic device would help. Also, every IEP is not because of cognition. A lot of children have IEPs because they have emotional challenges. So those children might have an IEP that says that if that child feels overwhelmed, he or she can step out and go into a therapy suite, or he or she can step out and take a few minutes of downtime. Those accommodations usually aren't provided for during standardized testing. So now we have another situation where children are being unfairly discriminated against. And when you look at the numbers, unfortunately, many of our children, Black and brown children, are placed into special needs categories and given IEPs simply because a teacher does not want to take the time to understand the circumstances surrounding a child's behavior, or that teacher has incorrectly diagnosed the child as having a special need. But one of the first things they want to do when they don't want to deal with our children is give them the label as a child with special needs. I'm of the opinion that everyone in the world has special needs because we all require specific things to be successful and to grow in life. I believe in IEPs for all because every person is an individual and learns differently. However, it's unfortunate that when it comes to the educational system in America, our students who have IEPs and 504 plans are discriminated against and they're not taken care of properly. Usually they don't even get the services that are written into their plans.
Right. You're absolutely correct. They do not.
Wow. Okay, well, our next slide is standardized tests measure only a small portion of what makes education meaningful. According to the late education researcher Gerald Bracey, PhD, qualities that standardized tests cannot measure include creativity and critical thinking, resilience and motivation, persistence and curiosity, endurance and reliability, enthusiasm and empathy, self-awareness and self-discipline, leadership and civic mindedness, courage and compassion, resourcefulness and sense of beauty, sense of wonder and honest integrity. Can we elaborate on that, Alexandra? Those are some good, that's good meat right there.
Well, we all know that tests aren't the way to bring out any child's or any person's creativity or individuality and really, teach, see where they're at when it comes to learning and helping them advance. I mean, clearly that, that's to be said. And the curriculum that's going on, it doesn't allow that. So no part of the curriculum allows creativity, even for teachers. Teachers can't even have creativity. They have to teach to the test, just like KEYANNA said, they have to teach to the test. So even if a teacher wants to see some other areas that they can kind of play with the creativity for a child, they don't have the time. Some teachers push a little bit in, but when you're talking about you have 3 times out the year that you're usually having to test these kids in small baseline assessments within that time, you do not have time enough to help a child to grow creativity. They wonder why kids are, so upset and so annoyed because of the fact it's always drilling a child. You're constantly drilling them daily that we have these deadlines, that we have to hit this. We got to get this score. We need to make this number. If we don't get this number, then we need to do this. It's constant stress and frustration, not just for the child, but for the teacher. And then a child can feel that the teacher's frustrated and they're ramming them. So it's just going back and forth. And we got a child, we got a teacher, and they're both frustrated, but who's not being successful from that? A child. The child cannot be successful. So that's why you see a lot of Black kids that are like, just, they always go down, right? They're always, not even say they always go down. They start at a 1, supposedly, and they just flatline. Why? Because they can't implement any type of creativity. They can't change the path and see if Johnny is not understanding the learning style this way, they don't have the option to tweak it for him. And so that's why they stay just flatline, and they go in this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 group, and they just stay along, and they never can come up. And they just stay. They might go down, but they never can come up because the learning never changes. The teaching never changes. And it's the same all the way through. And that's how you have these kids that never have any academic growth, any academic success, and they wind up not being able to receive their diploma.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that there is no room for the arts, the sciences. There is no room for the home economics. There is no room for any of this thing. The only thing there's room for is getting these students prepared for testing.
That's it. When it comes to even science, when you said science has an FSA. In middle school, the sixth and seventh grade, they have to remember all of that information for those 2 years, because there's a big test at the end of the 8th grade that they must pass with that score as well. So it's always a test. So it's never, not a subject that's not tested.
Wow. Prophetess KEYANNA?
Well, there's really not a whole lot more to add to this slide, simply because it's very detailed and self-explanatory, but all of these qualities that a standardized test can't measure are the exact things that children need to be successful. These are the qualities that you need to develop in life, that need to be honed in on from the time that a child is very young, that we don't foster anymore in schools. Aside from that, when you think about the fact that most of the companies that develop the materials for standardized test scores are tied to one particular political party, you see just a bit more into the level of systematic and systemic racism and discrimination that goes into these tests.
Wow. Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. So this slide is saying America is facing a creativity crisis. Scores on testing have been dropping since the 1990s. Why are scores dropping? Number 1, neglecting students' creativity in school. Number 2, because of the structure and testing movement. And number 3, students are becoming underachievers. Well, why are they becoming underachievers, Prophetess KEYANNA?
When you look at the fact that there are some students who will perform better academically when they're involved in some type of art and creativity, most students who are musicians or athletes are also students who do well academically, because a lot of times either the sports or the music, it's going to allow a child not only to declutter their brain, it's going to allow them free movement, it's going to allow them freedom of expression. It allows that child to grow in ways that we can't measure academically, but it goes hand in hand, arts and academics. And that's the reason why over the years where we've seen this push to get the arts out of schools, there has to be an equal amount of pushback from the community to keep arts in school, because there are some children who won't do anything academically if they don't have the opportunity to perform artistically. There are some students who they might have been fidgety in class, but once the teacher saw that the child had a certain type of energy or liked a certain type of music, the child was put into a music class. And now all of a sudden, not only is this child making music, but he's paying attention in class now for academics. He's scoring well on his assessments, and not standardized testing assessments, but just a regular classroom assessment. So we have to understand that there is definitely a relationship between arts and academics that's been neglected for so long. And if I may be so bold, I would say that this push is due to the fact that minority students are recognized more for their artistic ability. So when you take away their ability to perform artistically, to have any type of creativity, now you also stifle the academic potential in those children.
Wow, that was good. Would you like to elaborate, Alexandra, add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, but I want to add that when it says why are scores dropping, the curriculum changed. The curriculum changed. The work changed. The word usage that they use when they give these tests are to confuse children. They do not teach anything else of those tests. So when they give the test, the teachers aren't seeing the questions before the test. The teachers aren't seeing the questions after the test. So when you get these scores, we're supposed to believe, as KEYANNA said, the test maker, that they're not being discriminating against our Black children when they put, like, my son Bryce's name in the database and not giving just a random score. We have no proof to follow that this score is accurate. We don't know what questions they're asking. We don't know how to review the questions. All they're receiving is something that says a score of 1 through 5. It says that they scored low when it came to the reading comprehension, but we do not know what type of questions they gave. Do we know that how do we know they didn't give my Bryce, who is Black, different questions than they gave little Sarah, who is white? We don't know if they even had the same test. We don't know if he really scored the 5 and she really scored the 1 and they lied. So remember, this system was not set up for Blacks to be academically successful, to be successful in careers. So why do we want to trust a system that was never set up for us to be successful? So why are scores dropping? Because we don't see the test. We don't know if the tests are real. We don't know if the scores are accurate. We don't know if when you put a Black child's name in that system that they lie and give them a 1 every single time. And what seems to be, that is the problem. Because when I was at Sly Middle School, every child, it was Black and there was Mexican and Hispanics were in that one class because they were considered the lower level readers. And that's another thing. How do kids come up if all of us are reading on the same level? I'm never seeing anyone read higher than me. But as they all received only a 1 and a 2 the whole time, and the kids threw the test cards down and said, I'm over it. 7th graders, they said, I've been getting a 1 and a 2 since 3rd grade. How do we know this is accurate? We have no proof, but we continue to want to believe the educational system is not scamming our kids.
Well, it seems to me that the American educational system is scamming these children. Hey, that's what I hear right now. And not only are the kids are frustrated, but some of the parents are frustrated as well. Some of the ones that have been involved with this from the beginning. Now, a lot has changed over the years, and I'm doing this because I have grandchildren now. So I want to know what's going on and things like that. So if we have anyone that's down in on the Facebook Live, if you have any questions, please post your questions so that I can read those questions, and either Prophetess KEYANNA or Alexandra will answer those questions. Do you have like any, I would say any like statistics on like with Hillsborough County? I know you talked a lot about Slide Middle School, but what about some of these high schools like King High School, Riverview High School, what is it? Gaither, Wharton. What about some of those schools and the one out Blake, and then they have the one out in South Tampa versus the ones in our communities? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. So it's just like when I was working at Wharton for a whole year. Okay. I mean, they bused kids from Sulphur Springs into Wharton, same as Freedom High School. And so I saw the same thing. It didn't matter. It was always Black kids that had the lower scores or didn't leave. Majority of them didn't leave with their diploma. And so not all of them, of course, but when I sat in honors classes, you only had maybe 1 Black male or 1 Black female in those classes. And so that's an issue as well. So are we saying that all Black kids, majority of them aren't academically successful, but because we're basing on this test that's supposedly not discriminating against our children or lying on them? I mean, you know, and I think that's where we're going wrong as parents, that we want to continue to believe the educational system that wasn't set up for our kids. It was this country wasn't set up for us to be successful. So we cannot continue to allow this test to be believed that little Johnny is just not getting it all the way from the age of 5 all the way to the age of 18. And so every time we're seeing it's the same thing. No one can help Johnny come up. We cannot believe that that's not the case. Johnny is not being taught accordingly. Number one. Number two, you continue to test him. If you take 2 weeks to test a child, it's just like I said, Tuesday they're going to do I-ready testing for 2 hours, and you have to read this passages, as they say, not story, not paragraphs, it's passages, and then you have to try to type, and it's timed. So if your computer shuts out, for example, and I saw that at Wharton, the computer shut out, the time is still going. Now we need to get back on. Do you understand how frustrating that is for a child? So you put certain barriers in it to make sure they're thrown off and that they don't do good. An 8-year-old, if an 8-year-old does good on typing, then he is clearly, or she is clearly very, very gifted. But majority of kids are not going to do good on this test. So how are we going to believe that these scores are accurate when you're going to say, well, 30 white kids did well, but 50 Black kids did not?
Wow.
And so
there's a question. And the question is, so would you say that the standardized testing is to enslave Black and brown children to be dumb?
Oh, the whole curriculum. When they changed the curriculum to when they started with the Common Core, it definitely went downhill even more so. So when you look at these scores now, ask yourself what changed all of a sudden? Common Core came in, and all of that creativity that teachers were allowed to kind of play a little bit with, they're not able to do it anymore. So we know what happened. We know exactly what happened. Why do we not come together to fight it is the question. Because we can clearly see what the problem is. It is not the children. The children are frustrated and they're angry and they're tired and they have every right to be. And so to believe that it's the child's fault, it is not the child's fault. We need to stop putting this on these children. To ask a child to go to school, we force kids to go to school every day from the age of 5 to the age of 18. They must go to school. And to leave without your diploma is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. So to think that a child should not be frustrated, I sat at King and some of those kids were nervous in March before the COVID that they were not going to be able to graduate because they could not pass a reading assessment. A senior could not pass a reading assessment from the grade 10. And it was their senior year. And I said, the only thing that saved them that they had waived the assessment and those kids could graduate. But there should be no reason. Example for my son, he's been an honor roll student since the beginning, since age 5. But to still say an FSA can hold and retain you back is absolutely disgusting. So you can be an A honor roll student and still not receive your diploma because of an FSA testing score. We have a problem. We have a problem.
Prophetess KEYANNA, question. Other than voting, what step do parents need to take first to protect their children's creativity? Is this the same in all states?
Well, I have to tell you honestly that it has been the same in many places. I cannot speak for every state, but I'll just say overall that Alexandra hit on a very important thing, which is Common Core, because Common Core is the reason why a lot of districts have moved away from including the arts in curriculum. And it's because of Common Core. And when you look at Common Core, once again, the companies that come up with and create Common Core curriculum, a lot of the standardized testing, also Pearson being the main one. Pearson is tied heavily to the Republican Party. What parents need to do as it relates to standardized testing, if you don't believe in institutionalized education, or if it has little value to you, and I will say clearly that institutionalized education has zero value to me. So I made the choice to homeschool my children, 100% homeschooling. I do not use a school curriculum. I don't have any teachers coming onto Zoom daily to teach my children. I teach my children and I teach my relatives as well. But what parents have to do is, one, know exactly how these tests affect your children in the state, in the district that you're in. Two, you have to understand what it means for you to opt out if you so choose. If you choose to say, I'm not going to let you define my child by your numbers or by your rating, non-proficient, proficient, or advanced. I don't see my child as that. If you decide that you want to opt out, find out what it means for you to opt out of the testing, and then find out if opting out still means that by the time your child becomes a senior, he or she is going to have to take a graduation test anyway. Find out what it means to opt out, but also become a fierce advocate for your child. Parents have to band together as much as we can. We have to band together, and we have to demand answers from our local boards of education. Understand that no one board member can do anything of his or her own volition. They have to work in concert. You have to have a majority to move anything. So the best thing we can do is apply pressure to our boards of education, to our chief school administrators. Apply pressure to let them know that we're not going to take just anything that you dish out, and I'm not going to allow you to marginalize my child.
My God. Okay.
That means going to board meetings. That means showing up when we're able to show up in schools again. That means showing up and being there. That means making your voice heard, and that means doing it and never letting up.
My God.
I want to add to that, because that's exactly what KEYANNA said. I totally agree with that. And also holding the legislators accountable as well, because they, have to hold on these tests. But when it comes to parents, just sticking together, not feeling like, I just want to stress this a lot, because a lot of people think that it's just my Johnny and it's something wrong with them. There's not anything wrong with them. The educational system has failed them. And it's a blessing, like how KEYANNA is able to do homeschooling. And I know lots of parents that have opted like her as well. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of parents can't do it, especially when it gets to the higher level classes and trying to teach them. And it can be very costly with tutoring and things of that nature. So, and if you know that's the case, it's just like KEYANNA said, we must come together, stick together, make your voice heard, and not feel like, oh, well, forget, Johnny's not going to make it. No, Johnny needs a future, whether or not he wants to go off to college, whether or not he wants to take up a trade, he wants to do something hands-on. It is not right for a child to go, and I say this again, to go in school and you're forcing them to go to school 6 to 8 hours a day from the age of 5 all the way to age 18 to say you leave with nothing but a paper of completion. How disgusting to do a child like that. You wonder why you have so many Black men and Black women out in the world right now angry because they sat there all those years with all those goals and all that passion, wanting to be something, to leave to find out that they didn't get what they came to get, what you lied about. When you're forcing kids in school, they're forcing kids right now to have to take the SAT, because if you don't pass the FSA, if you do not pass FSA reading, you have to take the SAT. And if you pass the SAT, then you can utilize that to graduate. It's an SAT. I've seen kids with a 1.3 GPA. To get into, to even graduate, you need a 2.0. You need a 2.0. So to ask the child to take an SAT course, a course that is required of them to graduate, is disgusting. It's all a mind game. It's a setup. So these kids are sitting in SAT courses, believing they're going to go to college, but they only have a 1.3 GPA. Even to get into USF now, it's over a 4.0. So when you're doing these classes and you're playing with them, you're not guiding them in the right way. And if those who are, and I know some great friends that are guidance counselor, and it's a struggle because it's hard for them to even do their job as well. They hold their hands, tie their hands down when they really need to be there to help these children out to be academically successful. So if you don't have the opportunity to be able to homeschool or whatnot, be an advocate. Join together as one. That's the only way we can make a difference. Do not feel like you're alone, because you're not. They're attacking all these children. They're attacking all of these children. And I deal with that myself with my own kids. I'm very much an advocate, because I will not allow the lies of the public educational system with your fake scores to deem them down as dumb when they're passing their classes.
Wow. This is horrible. Absolutely horrible. This was just a couple of things that I put on here for them for test taking tips. If you guys want to give them some tips, I put this on the screen here. And one is say take a deep breath, which, no, if you're already frustrated, you're not going to take a deep breath. So I'm just going to get rid of that, and we're going to end that. So with all that being said, okay, so what can parents do? Okay, what can parents do to see a lot of change? If parents want to see change, what can parents do, Alexandra, especially here in Hillsborough County? You just said that USF is requiring a 4.0 to even enter into college.
They've gone up.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay.
So
what
you
can
have to
parents do?
You definitely have to question everything. Ask for proof. When you're giving these tests and you're saying, oh, well, he only made a 1, I need to see. Because literally any test that you've taken, and I, went to college and graduated, when you got your test back, you saw the questions that you missed. You saw the questions you missed so that you can review and go over and get help from the teacher. When you don't have the paper to look at it, how can we believe it? How do I help my son? Don't give me the, oh, well, we're going to work on defining words or whatever, whatnot, but we can't see the test of the scores. Follow up, stay on it. Talk to your principals, talk to your APs, talk to your guidance counselor, be an advocate, show your face, call, email, do what you have to do, and then join other moms just like myself. I'm here, to come together, because we need to go to the school board. We need to make sure that our voices are heard. We need to let it be known that we're not taking any games when it comes to our children being academically successful and receiving their diploma with a great GPA. Black kids are always having a harder time to be able to be put in honors classes. But when it comes to white kids or Indian kids, they push them on a road to success totally different than they do for our kids. And that's not okay. And I push for that. Because I know there is nothing wrong with Caleb. I know there's nothing wrong with my Bryce, just like I know there's nothing wrong with the other kids out there that look like my kids. So you have to be an advocate. You have to make your voice heard. Yes, they will not like you. I have to say that. They do not like Alexandra. I'm okay, because I'm not here for that. I'm here to make sure my children are academically successful and they have a bright future, whatever it is they choose to do. If they go to the Army, if they do a trade, whatever it is. But you're going to walk out with your diploma in your hand. You're going to receive a great GPA. There are a lot of kids that are Indian kids in these IP programs that are leaving with their AA. Their AA. Why? Because they put them on that road to success. Wow. They don't put our kids on the same road to success. So when we're receiving these classes in middle school and in high school, they're always a little lower level. But when it comes to them, they have them on a faster track. So they get these higher GPAs, and they already have their AAs, or they already have AP courses, college credits in the 9th and 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So we have to make sure our kids are receiving the same positive path that they so lovingly give to kids that are not Black. I am so tired of that, because I deal with that all the time with my son. And so when I see that for other kids, it angers my spirit. Stop believing that Johnny and Sarah, whoever, does not need a diploma. You wonder why your kids are mad? Ask them why they're mad every day. You wonder why these kids are frustrated? Ask them why, and listen to your children. Stop believing that they're the ones that get in trouble all the time. Sometimes we have to stop thinking our kids aren't telling the truth. So give them that platform to be able to speak and sit down with respect and listen to them and follow up with them. Follow up. Ask them. These tests are horrible. The SAT they gave them last year was a joke. I saw memes and everything on Instagram, how those questions were trick questions. So the games they play even within the test are all games. So we need to take the time to, number one, listen to our children. Ask to see the proof. Let me see what you're doing so I can know, because we always just want to think they're just mad. But what made them mad? And please stop saying kids, oh, they have bad homes. I graduated in 1999. Kids had bad homes when I was in high school too, and everyone received their diploma. So, and I was in a minority school with loads of Blacks and Mexicans. I did not see how these kids aren't graduating. It's because of the test. So believe your kids, ask your kids, follow up, do some research, then join together with other moms, because guess what? Parents have the strongest voice ever. We don't utilize that voice.
My. Prophetess KEYANNA.
I just want to stress the importance of community, and in particular, homeschool communities. If you don't homeschool your children, but you know someone else who homeschools, talk to that parent if you're interested. We have to, as much as we can, share information with each other. One of the things that keeps our community at a deficit many times is because we don't share like other communities do. Unfortunately, we get this thing in our head of, oh, someone might get ahead of me, or, oh, this person's child is going to do better than my child. And it's not about that. We can all do well and we can all get there together if we band together. So that's the first thing. Community is the main thing that we need. We need to nurture each other in community. Homeschool communities are important, because there are people out there. If you think you're struggling with homeschooling, there's not a parent out here who hasn't struggled with homeschooling. Reach out to other parents. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And yes, we can create any type of community that we want to create. We can create any type of group that we want to create so that we can help each other to educate our children and ensure their successes in life. The other thing, because someone mentioned other than voting, but voting is such an important part of it, because you need to know who represents you. You need to know who makes these decisions on behalf of your children at the most basic level. All politics are local. So start right in your locality. Wherever your school board is located, whether it's the county or your municipality, then find out who those members of the school board are. Go to Board of Education meetings and make it your business to really know what the business is. Outside of that, your state legislators, find out who heads your education committee for your state. Find out where your state General Assembly meets and when they're in session, because when there is an issue that we need to bring to them, then that's when we all get together and we group up outside of the assembly location, wherever the General Assembly is held. Whether it's a state capitol, whether it's another place, then that's where we all need to be, so that these legislators know we mean business. Not only that, use the power of the pen, because the pen is still mighty. Write to your legislators. Write to your legislators on every level. And if you inundate them, not only with emails, with paper mail, with phone calls, call them out on social media, everything that you can do to shine a light on the people who are supposed to represent us, but continue to fail us by allowing legislation to pass that disproportionately affects our children, call them out in any way you can, because that's the only way that we're going to affect change. If you got to walk up and down your street every day with a sign that says, don't vote for ABC senator because he does not like our children, then that's what you do.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
good information.
Yeah.
That's good information. I have a question. And the question is, have the Black and brown parents put too much trust in the corrupt system?
Of course. Yes. They don't question a lot of times. They believe that the system was made for them, and that, it's not here to corrupt, and no one's lying, or the scores are always correct. They don't question it. And I think and I know that's where we have a lot of issues. Question it. Don't just take that answer. If we're looking at the injustice system of jailing, and how they jail Black men and women, much more, and hold them accountable to another level. Why do you not believe the state is still not involved when it comes to the education? That's why we talk about the pipeline to prison. The pipeline to prison is real, and it starts with these assessments. And you get a child so frustrated, and then they act out. And then you always suspend them over every little thing. And then you start suspending them. And then now they have the police in there, and then they can get arrested in high school. And so it starts from school. These little Black boys come in school, these girls come in school, and they just start tracking them to push them on out. Think about it. If you leave school and you've been there all those years and you leave without a diploma, what do you expect this person to do for money? What jobs do you get? Most jobs you need a high school diploma. What do you do? So now you say, I didn't hear you, Pastor.
I said that's right.
Yeah, so it's the corrupt of the jail pipelines to prison, it begins in the educational system. Black boys are attacked the moment they step foot. The moment they step foot into a school. So the moment they step foot into a school. And so it just starts from there, and they try to make this little track record and just keep on pushing them. And so I have two Black boys. I know every little thing. And we're always having to tell our children, make sure you don't do this. Make sure you don't do this. Don't say this. Don't push back. Why? Because the moment they snap, they get a harder punishment. And then it just begins, and it keeps going, and the record goes, and they add on, and they all add on. And that's it. And so there's the pipeline to prison. And Hillsborough County is one of the highest counties for the pipeline to prison. And people think, please don't believe, it is only when they get suspended. It begins with those tests. That is the pipeline to prison as well. Frustrate a kid. How do you frustrate him? With his grades. How do you make them angry? With his grades. When kids were coming to school before, they had positivity. It didn't matter about your home life. Your home life could have been horrible, but you came in, your teacher encouraged you, you got good grades, you had little parties. It's just like KEYANNA said, they had positive events, and just you could write freely. I remember writing about my Christmas vacation with my family, things that were free. No, now you have to write about the text evidence. You have to write about the passage. There is no free writing. You say, why kids have so many mental issues, health issues now? Well, think about it. You changed everything that allowed them to be them through paper, through the arts, like you said, through the music. Think about a child like my son loves basketball. If you had him reading a book about LeBron James and basketball or football and sports, you imagine how much writing that child would do. If you allow, like when we used to do reading, we got to read. I remember reading the Babysitter Club, and we had little novels we loved to read, and we watched movies about it. You would love to come to school because of the fact that you had parties. Now, parents can't even bring in a birthday cake at lunch. Do you see? You can't bring in treats. It makes them too fat, they say. Don't bring in treats for the child. This is nothing but a prison environment. There are no pictures on the walls in the hallways, no colors on the wall. Most kids, if you ask them, do they feel their school looks like a prison? They will tell you yes. Those high school kids say, I can tell they're gearing me for jail. See, parents aren't asking the right questions. Walking that school at King High School, that school is so old, Hillsborough County should be disgusted with themselves. That school looks like Lean on Me with Mr. Clark in the movie, without Mr. Clark.
My God, Jesus.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
All my schools have been remodeled.
Wow. I haven't been to King in a while, so I didn't pay a visit.
And it's not just even King. You got Wharton High School out here. They all look the same. There's no updates. I'm from Orlando. A lot of people say, well, they have a higher tax, but we have a new 0.5% tax that came into play too. And we still have air conditioners broken while these children are wearing masks with COVID.
Now I want to ask a question, because see, I know my problem may not be able to answer this, but what happened to the money that's supposed to have been set aside with the lottery for the schools? What happened to that money?
They don't give that money to the schools. And when they do, they don't, most of the time the schools do not get that money. But a lot of times when they do give the money to the schools, then there are stipulations that come with those grants. Those monies will go partly into a grant fund from the state. And you know that the grants are competitive. So your grant writer in your school district will apply for the grants for your district, and you might get them, you might not get them. So technically, the money is going toward quote unquote education because it'll go into the state's grant fund. But 9 times out of 10, the schools that serve majority minority populations do not receive those funds. Wow. They don't receive those funds at all. You know, one of the most important things that Alexandria just tapped on was the fact that you can't even have a party for your child in school anymore. You can't come and celebrate your child's birthday. First, you already see that parent participation in school has been under attack. Districts have done everything in their power to limit it as much as they can because they know the power of the people.
Yes.
So they don't want you there. They don't want you to see the conditions in which your children learn. They don't want you to see the fallacies and the deficits in the structure of the building. They don't want you to see that teachers talk to our children like they're nothing. They don't want you to see that a principal is sitting behind her desk most of the time or his desk most of the time and not interacting with the faculty or making classroom visits. They don't want you to see these things. They don't want you to see that your child is miserable because your child is sitting in an environment that is institutionalized. We don't have any type of creativity in the classroom when we talk about STEM and STEAM learning. If you think about a STEM classroom, your STEM classroom is your basic preschool or kindergarten classroom. And if every classroom had those areas or stations, like we call them, or learning centers, like we call them in preschool and kindergarten, imagine how much more our children could achieve. Because why is it important for my child to sit crisscross applesauce on the rug? What if he wants to lie down because he doesn't like your lipstick and he doesn't have to look at it so he can focus better if he lies down on the rug? Or maybe he just wants to sit by himself and not with the group so he could be in the reading area or in the quiet area. Why won't you allow children to do that? You're taking away their individuality. When you take away their individuality, not only are you taking away their creativity and you're stifling that, but you're putting them in a position where they feel like, now I have to wear a mask because I can't be who I am. I can't learn the way I want to learn. Teachers know that, they recognize that. And a lot of times they don't care. And what angers me with teachers is that they won't get together and uproot this whole system.
And if you can with parents as well,
bogged down by these unfair rules. They continue to allow our children to be run roughshod over. Instead of recognizing that there's strength in numbers. Some idiot is worried about a bonus. Somebody else is worried about making it to the next level because she's on her way to certification for gifted and talented. Or somebody is worried about their tenure. But if we would recognize that if we all got together and burned this mother down, there would be nothing that they could do.
And that
reason so why
true. I say this all the time.
A conscious decision to take my children out of schools because at this time, there's not enough time for me to wait on people to come around and stop being scared to do the right thing. And the fact that you call yourself an educator of my child, but you don't want to stand up for what's right, I have an issue with that.
Completely. I don't want to hear about the money. I understand we all need money. I'm so over that when she just said that fear of a paycheck. We all have jobs that we don't like, but yet we still, when it comes to children, your duty is to the child first. When you do right for a child, then the money will come. We wonder why the money hasn't went up. It won't go up because you aren't honoring the child's education. Isn't it great that we have teachers that complain about money, but yet they got their diploma, they got their bachelor's degree, but these children are leaving out of your classrooms without theirs. So how do you feel okay with that when you're an educator? It should tear your spirit down when you have so many kids that went through your classroom that did not just receive their high school diploma.
So what I want to say is this right here. For all those that are out here in the audience that are listening, I want you to stop profiling, racially profiling our children, putting the stigmatization on our kids. Stop saying that all Black women are angry, because this is a reason to be angry.
It really is.
This is a reason to be angry. All right. So what I want to see change. What do I mean by change? If you want change, You be the change agent. Stop sitting around and complaining. Go to some of these meetings. Get up and go and vote. Don't sit there and complain if you're not going to do anything about it, okay? Now, you need to go. They already said that you need to show up at the schools. It's about community. It's about us coming together, and there is strength in numbers. You heard what these young women said today. They gave you a lot of good information to take with you. So I hope that you have learned something. I hope that you take this information with you, share it with your aunts, your uncles, share it with your parents, and some of the children have been on here listening. Share it with grandparents, because I will say again, there are a lot of grandparents that are taking care of their grandkids. So they need this information. So if you want change, be the change. Stop complaining. Go to some Board of Education meetings. Show up. Go to your PTA meetings. Show up. Show up in your children's classroom. Talk to the teacher. Just show up so that you'll hear what's going on. See what's going on in the classroom. You never said anything about Hillsborough High School. What's up with that high school? Because I used to work at that high school. So what's up with Hillsborough? Are they in the same class? Boat to Hillsborough High School?
I'm not familiar with Hillsborough High School, but the standardized testing it's the same across the board. Everything is the same. I'm just specifically giving, like, because I've been in those schools, but it's the same across the board. You have to have these FSH scores. You have to have to be able to pass and graduate. It doesn't matter just your GPA. If you don't pass that, so it's the same everywhere. It's the same everywhere.
Okay, so what I want to see, I just want to stop people to stop saying, "Oh, black women are so angry." Well, this is a reason to be angry. If you have a child that has been going to school from the kindergarten all the way, preschool all the way up to 12th grade, and then they get to talking about walking across the stage and they don't get their diploma, what? There's something wrong with this. There is something wrong with this. And this will not be the last time we will be on discussing this. It will not. Because like Alexandra said in the beginning, this is a movement. And we as parents, I am a parent, but all of my children are grown. So I am on here for my grandchildren, okay? So I want to be involved in all of the talks, of the meetings, and everything like that. So I'm going to get myself involved in this. So anyway, Prophetess KEYANNA, is there any closing statements that you would like to do? Closing statements for Alexandra, and then we're going to close up.
Just want to thank everyone for taking the time to even listen to this call, to be a part of this very important discussion. I thank you, Pastor Obi, for facilitating this. And most of all, thank you to Alexandra, who's very passionate about what's going on, not only systemically, but right where she lives in Hillsborough County. And what we have to do, each individual, is start right where we live. So that is what we want to foster. That is what we want to encourage. And we will continue to do this as much as we can.
Amen.
Alexandra?
I second KEYANNA. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm so glad that, I've got to meet both of you ladies. And we just got to keep on coming together, and we can't just stop. It's not just my children. I can take my kids out tomorrow, but this is something that, we have to stay for other children that don't have that same opportunity as we might have. And so I'm not going anywhere. Hillsborough County knows that. And even when Bryce and Caleb become those academic scholars and receive those awesome diplomas, I'll be here still fighting for other children. And this is my passion. And if anybody has questions outside of this and you're in Hillsborough County, please feel free to inbox me. I say this all the time. I ran for school board just because of this right here. What I saw and was so disgusting, and I'm not done just because I didn't win that seat. I'm pushing forward, pushing through. So join us in this movement. Join me in this movement, Hillsborough County. We got to take a stand together as one. Let's go do this.
We will take a stand, and you will run for school board again, and we're going to campaign our behinds off. Don't now.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Give up now. So,
Not done.
hey, not done yet. So listen, we're going to go right now, but just keep your notifications on, because there will be another discussion on standardized testing. Who knows? It may be another topic, but we gotta stay focused, people. Show up at the schools. Show up at those children's schools. Not just show up at the basketball, football games. No, show up in the classroom. Show up where it matters the most. If you want change, be the change agent.